So as you might have heard, a very important person bravely fought off the coronavirus last week. He was believed to be exposed on Saturday, September 26, and tested positive on Thursday, October 1st. That person is, of course, me. The ultimate VIP. Yep, I had the Rona, everybody. Stu had the vid. Proud member of Club Corona. It all started, I believe, with a little dinner I went to on Saturday night. So before the Karens come searching for us with torches and pitchforks, it really is hard to eat with your mask on. So I don't think that was the cause. When we started the meal, it was a small group. We were pretty much the only ones in the place. By the end, it had literally turned into a public service announcement from Dr. Fauci as the exact sort of place you should never be in. It got crowded. People started dancing on an apparent dance floor. I'm pretty sure people were randomly sneezing for fun. By the end of the night, I put my chances at getting COVID at approximately 93%. Imagine my surprise when I later learned that it was actually someone I was at dinner with who started feeling sick a couple days later. Apparently, someone he worked with gave it to him. He took a test on Tuesday, then got their positive results on Wednesday. So after doing this fabulous little show on Wednesday night, I found out this little nugget of information. And my wife and I went on a really fun adventure to the urgent care clinic and experienced the wonder of nasal swab rapid tests. Oh, that was a joy. Let me tell you about it. She tested positive. I tested negative. Now, as a few dozen people around the White House found out, just because you have a negative test doesn't mean you aren't spreading disease around like you're Charlie Sheen. At this point, I'm feeling totally fine. No symptoms for anyone in the house. Everything seems to be going well. One of the weird things that happens if you go through this sort of craziness is the guidance from the doctors and the CDC is that my wife, who tested positive, needs to isolate until the 10th day following her positive test. All right, fine, 10 days, whatever. But also that I have to isolate for 14 days. If you're in the healthcare industry, I'm sure you've had a wonderful time communicating that information to people. I felt like saying, no, you don't understand. I won here. My wife lost. I won. I had the negative test. And you're telling me I have to quarantine longer? And then, of course, I would burn the building to the ground. No, don't actually burn the building down. You should only do that when you're protesting systemic racism. And of course, the building is an auto zone. Then it's totally fine. It seems bizarre, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it. The idea is if you're negative and you're living with someone that has a positive test, they probably already gave it to you, but you haven't tested positive yet. It happens. It takes a few days. You'll probably do so in a few days' time, meaning your quarantine window lasts a little bit longer. Now, the next day, we've got the whole family tested, and I tested positive as well. And everybody in the family eventually did as well. We're an adorable little family of coronavirus petri dishes. Oh, isn't that adorable? Luckily, I tend to think in terms of statistics and probability. If you didn't know that, welcome to the show. And as we talked many times here, as we've been blabbing on about COVID all this time, if you get the COVID, the odds are overwhelmingly in your favor that you'll be okay. A study in Spain estimated that in my age group, about 0.07% of people die. That's really low. For the president's age group, that's more like 3.4%. But even there, over 96% of people live. Now, there can be some nasty, long-lasting side effects in some of the serious cases. Obviously, the president wound up in the hospital, which either indicates he had a pretty serious case, they were being really careful, or that he really likes hospital food. I don't know. For those in their 70s that are otherwise healthy, about 28% of people that are infected wind up in the hospital. If you add on some underlying health conditions, that number is more like 65%. In my age group, only about 6% of otherwise healthy people go to the hospital, and about 30% if you have underlying conditions. As you can see, I'm in peak physical condition and have no worries about ever being sick. As I always say, the best cure for COVID-19, super sexy abs. True. But having this knowledge going in, I wasn't fearful. As Trump was leaving the hospital, he tweeted about not being afraid of COVID-19 and not letting it dominate your life. This led to the expected rounds of media horror. I can't believe after going to the hospital, he's still trying to downplay this threat. First of all, yes, you can. You can believe it. You believe anything that you consider negative about this president. It's always believed. I have faith in you. You can believe it. Don't doubt yourself. But more importantly, there's nothing inconsistent with this way of thinking. You could still have a healthy respect for a serious national tragedy without letting it dominate your life. You can take precautions without being afraid. Fear is an emotion. Emotions don't work well with pandemics. Emotions make people yell at other citizens in grocery stores for not wearing masks, when screaming droplets everywhere is the exact kind of thing that spreads the virus. Emotions are making public health officials get on television and try to argue that gatherings of tens of thousands of people are not risky at all because they agree with the protests. Emotions cause people to say that Andrew Cuomo did a great job with the pandemic because they want it to be true so badly that they ignore how uniquely awful Andrew Cuomo really is. Andrew Cuomo is awful.com. Emotions don't help us make sober judgments about the right path forward. We should think about COVID kind of like we think about guns. You shouldn't fear guns. You should have a healthy respect for them. You're never going to eliminate all risk, but understanding that risk and trying to mitigate it as much as possible without blowing up your society is not irrational. Going in, I knew about 40% of cases are believed to be asymptomatic, and thankfully, that's the group that our family fell into. None of us had any symptoms. That's obviously great news for us. Yay! But I will say not having symptoms makes the whole experience very strange. First of all, it's very disruptive. You basically have to turn your life off for a couple of weeks with no warning while you feel totally fine. This feels so opposed to the American experience, as have so many aspects of the COVID era. You know, when we're challenged, we want to stand up and get out there and fight, but we're told the best thing to do is to stay home. When we're not feeling sick, we want to go out and get out and work. But in this case, that's the exact opposite of what we're supposed to do. Then you have to start calling around to all your friends and coworkers to let them know you might have infected them with the worst pandemic in 100 years. Oops, sorry. One thing I did not really realize until we had to go through it is that people don't like that phone call. And it's not really what you'd expect. It's not like, hey, thanks a lot, jerk. I appreciate you passing me this disease. It's more like, no, don't tell me that. Now I can't eat out for 2 weeks. And look, I certainly get that emotion. I am happy to live in deep, deep denial over tons of things in my life. But this is the most basic thing we can do, more basic than vaccines or therapeutics or social distancing or even masks. Look, I get the instinct to want to go out and live your life. I'm not a fan of wearing masks. I am a fan of social distancing. That's totally unrelated, though. It's one thing to say, look, I'm not going to exist in a bubble. You know, I have to live my life. That's totally fine. It's another thing to say, I'm not changing anything even when I've had close contact with someone who is positive. These are two separate standards here. If just those people would suck it up and remove themselves from polite society for a few days, it would be really annoying, but it would eliminate so many of these broad, sweeping actions that government officials love to take. My kids have been at school in person since August. I know you're jealous. I could have kept sending them to school until they had a positive test, but we pulled them out immediately upon learning that we might have had a close contact. The distance learning thing can be annoying, but if we had sent a couple of COVID-positive rugrats to school for just those extra couple of days, they could have spread those germs all over the place, and then the whole school closes for 2 weeks. God, please, no. I know not everyone has a stupid, meaningless job like I do, and it's not that easy for everybody to do this. I get it. But erring on the side of caution personally takes away the justification for government morons to come after our rights generally. Hi, Stu Bergier of Stu Does America here. Thanks so much for watching our video. Did you know you can watch our entire catalog for free right here on our channel? Subscribe now and be sure to hit the thumbs up button on all the episodes you watch, because that's how they know you like this stupid show. And that little bell in the corner as well. Make sure you click that. You'll get notifications every time we post new content. Stu Does America every weekday at 8 p.m. Eastern right here.